Let me show you an incomplete list of the thinkers, the heavy hitters in cosmology who have pronounced on this issue of whether or not life could last forever. The guys in the middle here say it's quite possible. They say the probability is not unreasonable, given an intelligent force that has made that its objective. When I drew this list up, I had Hawking over there with Weinberg, because everything I had read by Hawking suggested that that's where he belongs. But last week I got a fax from Dr. Fauci saying, on the possibility that some evolved form of life might be able to exist forever, I asked Hawking directly, and he said in quotes, because Hawking doesn't speak, quite possible if the universe continues to expand forever. Well, that's an issue we don't have much time to go into, but the evidence indicates that the universe would expand forever if left to its natural course. There's this business about the density of the universe, and if you take all of the visible matter and all of the dark matter is distinct from missing matter. Dark matter is, you can't see it, but you can sense its gravitational force. All the calculations are that there's about 1/10 of the amount needed to be the amount that would close the universe. People have been looking for the missing mass, the mass that would be required to close the universe, for about 20 years, and they just draw blanks. Now, Weinberg is the biggest and the best of the hardcore pessimists. And he thinks it's unlikely. I would have guessed that he thought it was even more than unlikely from what I had read, but I asked him this directly, and I got the following email message. I don't take the view that life can't last forever, but only that it seems unlikely, and that you can't conclude from modern science that life will last forever. Well, fair enough. You can't. Well, you shouldn't. These brings us to this group over here. They do conclude that you can conclude from what we know today that life will last forever, and all of their equations sneak God in somewhere. Now, Dr. Leikind wrote an article in Skeptic Volume 3, Number 4 about these characters, and I highly recommend it to you, to disabuse you of their nonsense. My gripe with these people is that the degree to which you ascribe to God responsibility for the far future of the universe is the degree to which you shirk that responsibility yourself. That, and I'm just embarrassed by the nonsense that they put out. I mean, I have such respect for Dyson. I've spent so many hours talking to him, and 11 years of correspondence, and then people like this come along. And this is one of Dr. Tipler's light cones. And the Earth line, which ricochets off the side of the light cone. And when we finally get to the omega point, everything is going to turn into celestial crap, but there will be this computer that will virtually recreate all of us, and every man in this room is going to get to have sex with every beautiful woman he's ever seen on the road. It's in the book, read it. Not only that, every man that ever lived is going to have sex with every beautiful woman that ever lived. Now, I checked out the math on that. And I won't belabor you with the calculations, but I figured, it took me about 3 days, that if every man is going to have sex with every beautiful woman, then every beautiful woman, and there's going to be gazillions of men by then, is going to have sex with every single man that ever lived. Now, I won't go through the proof, but that's a big problem. And I'm not talking about AIDS and gonorrhea and all that stuff, because we will surely have jettisoned all diseases by here. I'm not even talking about these Paleolithic emotions that men differentially carry, like jealousy and needs for chastity, and those will be gone about here. Take longer than getting rid of diseases, I figure. The problem for men at the omega point is going to be performance anxiety. Listen, really, even you guys who are in the 99th percentile, and I hope all of you have a woman in your life who makes you think you are, but even for you guys who actually are. How are you going to feel when Marilyn Monroe rolls off the wet spot and says, "Sugar, you're terrific. I've only had 8 or 9 billion men better than you." This may be Tipler's idea of heaven, but all I can say is he must be some stud. And you can't judge a book by its cover. That brings us to the argument that I warned you about. For all organisms, life is better than the alternative. I hope that that is self-evident for all of you. If not, I hope you're on medical treatment. For humans, existence is better than non-existence. What's the evidence for that? The virtually universal phenomenon of religion. People desperately want to think that their life matters and that it will continue to matter. They want to think that they exist. And there's no end to what they will believe in order to believe that they do. 3, existence is contingent and possible. The answer to whether or not we exist is not yes, it is not no, it is yet to be determined. And it is possible. Even Steven Weinberg says it's possible. And 4 is a logical point. Any finite probability is infinitely greater than 0. Me, the probability that God or gods or some conglomeration thereof are going to take care of the far future of the universe is 0. So that leaves me with no choice. You got a small probability and no probability, what do you go with? Doesn't matter how small it is. As Patricia Churchland said yesterday, push it as far as it will go, and if we hit a wall, we hit a wall. And as Roger Bingham said, this is no time for failure of nerve. The conclusion I draw is that humans should struggle for existence. Now, in 1859, Charles Darwin wrote his big book. And in that book, the phrase, "the struggle for survival," does not occur. The phrase Darwin used over and over throughout that book is the struggle for existence, a strange phraseology. For Darwin, all of life was engaged in a struggle for existence, and I think he was. And if we were to take this on as our conscious purpose, the only change would be that it would become conscious. That's what our ancestors, right back to the primordial slime, have been trying to do according to Darwin, and I agree. This conclusion addresses a question that was asked in the last issue of Skeptic, the most recent issue. We'll never have the last issue. Are we to fall into despair and nihilism, or should we find our own purpose? The ability to create our own purposes is what sets us apart from all other creatures. I've never seen that put so well and so succinctly. That's it. I'd even go so far as to say that in there is the definition for life, at least the definition I like, which is organizations of matter and energy that have a purpose. And more particularly, human beings within life are the only organizations of matter and energy, the only organisms that can choose their purpose. Well, what kind of choices should we make? I suggest objective morality, that is, a morality that has an objective. That we should choose behaviors that enhance our probability of existence. Now, we're talking here about the far future of the universe. Do we face moral dilemmas that will affect the far future of the universe? Sure we do. You know, obviously, if we self-destruct, that's the end. So we need to behave ourselves. But we already have in place moral systems that suggest that we ought to behave ourselves and not self-destruct. They're not doing a great job, by the way.